What suspension do I use for my Warbonnet hammock setup? We get a lot of questions about what I specifically use, and after trial and error on a bunch of different systems, I'm going to show you exactly the system that I use. Hey friends, Rob Pelton here. I'm off doing a little dispersed camping in southern Minnesota with my buddy John over here, Swag on the Trail 82. And I'm setting up my Warbonnet, and I've been getting a lot of questions on which particular suspension that I use for my hammock. I've used the beetle buckles from Dutchware. Those ended up slipping on me. Every time I got in my hammock, I would sink a foot and I'd have to like do special knots. So that really bugged me actually. I even reached out to Dutch, and he responded, wondering what the problem was, and I sent him a short video on how it was slipping, hoping that, it could be remedied somehow. And then that's where it just kind of died. I never really heard back from him after that, but that's okay. I found someone on Facebook named Jeff Myers, and he does a lot of custom hammock suspensions, and the name of his company is MyersTech. I'll put a link to his Facebook page or whatever right down in the description of this video. But he comes up with all these little ingenious, super lightweight suspension systems for hammocks. And I chose to go with his Beckett hitch suspension. And there's some pretty cool little things that he did. Let's take a closer look. The main suspension is just this, it might be just a polyester webbing. Lightweight, does not absorb or hold water, which is really nice. But there's no stretch. There is zero stretch in this stuff. Which is pretty nice because your hang is pretty consistent. And at the tip of my suspension, this particular cord goes to the hammock. I have a continuous loop here attached to it, connected to just a little button. This is basically a prusik knot. It's a prusik with a handle on it, which allows you to loosen it up. So let's get really close in here and I'll show you exactly kind of how all this works. Here is the blue prusik. Now, it doesn't always have to come in blue, it comes in a bunch of different colors. But what this essentially does is this blue knot, prusik knot, wraps around this webbing. And this webbing is what gets attached to the tree up on that end. But this knot, as it wraps around, if you grab this knot, you can adjust it along the webbing, just like that. Very easy. So you can adjust the length, the angle of your hammock. This is all your adjustments right here. Now, if you grab the knot, it allows you to do that. However, if you grab the load-bearing end, this end is going to the hammock. If you pull on it, essentially putting weight on it, it will not budge. It won't move. Either way, it won't go. It almost locks itself, right? But this little loop he includes on it, if you grab both ends of the webbing and just pull the loop, it'll loosen up that knot and allow you to once again grab the knot and adjust it up or down. That's what's really nice. Once I lay in the hammock, it's going to put a lot of weight, a lot of load on this knot, and the knot will really cinch up, and then it will be really, really hard to move, which is why this little loop is pretty handy to loosen it up and then make your adjustments next time around. Pretty snazzy, and it weighs like nothing. And the last thing, when you get your height and everything set up, you want to take your webbing and just tie a little half hitch underneath the prusik towards the hammock side. This locks it off and makes sure that the webbing doesn't slip through and then you end up on the ground. So yeah, just a little half hitch. That's all you need. Let's take a look at the tree end of the suspension while John makes a shit ton of noise over there. So at the end of the webbing, he's sewn just a little loop. And then on here, this is something called an Evo loop. This is basically an Amsteel carabiner. It's stronger than a carabiner, way stronger, way lighter, a lot more flexible. So the idea is to wrap this around the tree. You're going to wrap it over the webbing. You put a little knot on the end of it, and there's a little built-in loop right here. You put your knot through this loop, and that's it. Cinch it up to the tree, and that's gonna hold. I don't know what the weight bearing is, but it is a lot. It's way more than you actually need, but it's nice to know to have that security. Now I have yellow on the foot end, and I always have red on the head end. Red for head, and that goes for all my stuff sacks, everything I have. Red is always on the head end of stuff, so I know kind of what I'm working with. Just kind of a tip there. One other good thing about these Evo loops, since it's made out of AmSteel is far stronger than steel. Now, usually when you're using a metal carabiner, whether it's titanium, aluminum, anything like that, you can't just center it on the tree. It'll put too much weight on that carabiner, and your carabiner will actually bend and break. That's why you see a lot of people who have hammocks, they move their suspension to the side of the tree just like this, so that way it doesn't put much pressure. But what that does is that doesn't center your suspension under your tarp. Here's what I mean. With your carabiner off to the side like that, and it comes through your Rainfly with doors, you can see how this won't quite seal up because of that. However, if you were to center it like this on your tree, then that's going to seal up a lot better. It's not going to cause any undue tension on your tarp. And that's pretty much it. That's the suspension that I use from MyersTech. Now he has a couple of other options, but they're all lightweight. None of his suspension uses metal hardware. Again, if you need more information about his stuff, I'll leave a link to where you can get a hold of him down in the description of this video. If you have any questions for me about it, if you have any questions about the hammock, about the suspension, leave those questions, comments down in the comment area below. But I appreciate you watching. If you haven't already and you really like the stuff that I'm doing, consider subscribing right down there. I would greatly appreciate it. But until then, get out on trail, enjoy this big, beautiful world. It's hella nice out right now. We'll see you on the next one.